Now broadcasting from the Next Gen Conservative Studio in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report with Sam Whitfield.
Yes, it is the Thursday edition of the show, folks. Welcome to everyone watching this in the past, present, future hour. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, and I want to thank you for joining me. Today, folks, for the Thursday edition, as you can tell by the title of this episode, we are in fact going to go over the aftermath of the podcast that we had with Mr. Vickers and Mrs. Vickers as well. Once again, I want to thank both of them for coming on the show on Saturday. Overall, the episode was terrific. Personally, I feel it's one of the best that I've had, certainly this year. But overall, I think it may be in the top 10 episodes that I've done all time. And I'm not even exaggerating. So overall, very successful. And, a lot of people, are interested in the whole e-drama corner of the internet. And I'm not really like an e-drama sort of guy. I don't really get into that type of stuff. Well, let me rephrase it this way. I try to avoid the e-drama whenever I can. But when you have a podcast and you are an internet personality, eventually e-drama catches up with you, like it or not. And as you guys know, I've been in a few instances of internet drama. Nothing too major, knock on wood, but nevertheless, we're here and the show keeps on rolling. So like I said, the podcast with Matthew Vickers and his wife Mrs. Vickers, who, by the way, I did not originally think that Mrs. Vickers was going to be on the podcast alongside Mrs. Vickers. I didn't not invite her, but I figure that Mrs. Vickers would kind of want to stay out of the spotlight. That she had enough of the internet, with all of the drama. So I had initially just invited Mr. Vickers on, and of course he came on, and then as those of you who saw the show know, Mrs. Vickers popped in kind of in the background, almost kind of like a producer, if we want to use radio terms for this. And it was just a great conversation. I really feel like we had good chemistry, Mr. Vickers and Apex and I, and you know what? He made me laugh a few times. He made Apex and I both laugh a few times. I think we made him and his wife laugh a few times, more than once, which I'm very happy to say we were able to do. And it was just a lot of fun. And I think that is one of the most important things. So I really enjoyed myself. Apex enjoyed the show. He said it's one of the best episodes we've had, and I agree with him, but, it's always good to, get that feedback from the co-host as well. And, Mr. Vickers even messaged me, like an hour after and said he really enjoyed the show too, and that his wife really enjoyed coming on, too. So, we may be having streams, again and more frequently together, actually, which I know some of you will love, and some of you not so much. And that is kind of one thing I want to get into uh, here tonight, folks, because, um, or rather, when you guys are watching this. Full disclosure, I'm recording this on Wednesday night, but by the time you guys, either see or listen to this episode, it'll be Thursday, obviously, since this is the Thursday podcast. And who knows? Maybe by the time you guys have watched this, Mr. Vickers will have already done his first episode of the Good, the Bad, and the Vicious podcast. Um, Hopefully you've listened to this before then, since I plan on dropping this in the morning. But who knows? Either way, though, like I said, lots of positive feedback, which I always enjoy hearing. And that's great and all. I love when people love the show. Love it. However, there are some people who did not like this episode. And folks, I'm just going to be honest here with you and tell you that as someone who has been doing podcasting for 15 years now, it will be 15 years officially on Friday, and this Saturday is the 15-year anniversary show. Quick plug for that. But as someone who has been doing this since I was a teenager, if there is nothing else I've learned, in podcasting, internet in internet radio, or whatever you want to call this medium, if there's one thing I've learned, it's that you can't please the audience 100% of the time. You can't please 100% of the audience 100% of the time. You just can't do it. And what I mean by that is, sometimes some members of the audience, and hopefully the majority of them, are going to be really into what you're talking about and what you're what you're discussing, or the guest, or who you're having on. And then, others just won't. It's human nature. Not everyone is going to like everything 100% of the time, which is fine. Okay? That is that's going to be expected, right? But what's funny is the way in which some people choose to express their dislike for the program, or for certain things. So, in the negative column, or, I guess in the criticism column that we've had for the show, certainly there were a, there were some people who, uh, you know, they basically said, well, I listened to, the podcast with Mr. Vickers, for a bit, and he just wasn't my cup of tea. I tried listening to him, but I just didn't like him. Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that. Like I said, not everyone is going to be everyone's, cup of tea 100% of the time. I'm sure that there are people who feel that way about me when I go on to others people's podcast. It doesn't bother me. It's just the way it is, I guess. Um, However, there are some really funny, criticisms because there are groups of people who claim to hate the program, right? Um, or claim to hate Mr. Vickers or hate me, but then they, continue to watch the stream, or listen to the episode and just, poke various things and, just hurl insults to try and make me feel bad or try and make him feel bad, right? So I guess, and there were a number of those, and some of them, uh, crack me up, and you know, I I don't want to really show any of these or provide screenshots because A, some of them have been deleted, but B, some of them are like from DMs, and I really just don't share DMs publicly. But I will say that I got a couple of Twitter DMs, and by the way, these are all from anonymous like accounts with people who only have like 12 followers at max, right? They're pretty much anonymous. So there were a few people who DM'd me things like, well, that was a boring podcast and you're boring, and so is Mr. Vickers, or you're just as boring as he is, and then when I try and, I asked him, what was boring about the podcast, they couldn't answer or, they just got like really snarky about stuff, right? So that's one thing that we got. Okay, you know, so I'm boring to you. Big whoop, so what? Tune in, don't tune in, I don't care. Um, another criticism, and this one actually I do find funny, um, is that I PayPal'd Faith Vickers, Mr. Vickers' daughter. I paid I PayPal her uh, $5 in order to get Mr. Vickers on the show. So essentially, they're claiming that I essentially bought my interview with Mr. Vickers. Now, let me say this: Faith has retweeted this and put it out there. I did donate to her. I did PayPal her money for her son Xander. Um, it was $5. And did I do it to buy an interview with Mr. Vickers? No, I didn't. Um, Really, I did it because I've been following Faith's Twitter for a while, and uh, obviously I know her story a bit of what happened to her. Um, with the whole gun saga and whatnot. And let me say this: I know that she made mistakes, and clearly she's not perfect, right? I get that, but she does seem to be, uh, you know, doing her best to improve her life generally and be a good mother to her son, Xander, which is something that we really don't, uh, foster much in this society, it seems, right? Essentially, she is, for lack of a better term, maybe not a teen mom because she did graduate high school, though, eh, I guess technically, you know, I think she was born in like, 2001 is what she uh tweeted once. Anyway, point is she's a young mother. She had the baby out of wedlock. Granted, she had, Ethan Ralph's baby, so that's kind of a strike in and of itself. But hey, she's trying to be a good mother, and so far she seems to be doing a pretty good job, and even according to Mr. Vickers, she's doing a good job. So, as we discussed a bit on the podcast. So prior to the podcast, I did PayPal her $5 because, you know, why not? I just felt like it was a good thing to do. Um, I'm also not going to lie and say that I do kind of find it wildly entertaining that, uh, myself and other people who, kind of, call out Ethan Ralph for being the scumbag dad he is. There is a certain amount of satisfaction that I get from, knowing that even though I'm not a dad, even though I don't have kids of my own, in an indirect way, I am more of a father figure, to his own son than he is. I've helped him out more than his son has, and on one hand, that's sad, right? Because he should be there for his son. Uh, on the other hand, the community, the internet is helping his son out. So there's that too, right? So I did it partially to help, uh, Xander out and help Faith out. I did it partially to, I guess, A-log Ralph a little bit. I'm not going to lie about that. But in no way did I think, oh, that's going to get me an interview with, Mr. Vickers, for sure. Like, that's not why I did it. I donated just because I thought it was a good thing to do. Um, and I had even, like, started tweeting at Mr. Vickers and messaging with him prior to that. In all honesty, the reason why I wanted to interview Mr. Vickers, as I said on the podcast, was because, I saw the Kino Casino episode. I knew that, people wanted to know what he thought about all of the E drama. But meanwhile, I'm looking at, his timeline and I'm seeing all the nerd stuff that he's, tweeting about and all the pop cultural references that, he's talking out and the political stuff and I'm seeing someone who is kind of just in the same topics that I'm interested in, and that was what really spoke to me. And you know the internet drama is interesting, but it's not one of my favorite subjects. So I just wanted to basically give him a chance to express himself and really get to know the man outside of the internet drama. And we accomplished that in spades, I feel, right? So it was a genuine interview that we did. I didn't pay, I didn't pay for it, really. I just helped out because, it felt good to do, right? So that's the, I guess, pay to play rumor that was out there. The other rumor, surrounding that all the, critics had is, oh, you're just hopping on the, bash Ethan Ralph bandwagon, uh, because that's trendy right now, and that's the only reason why you had Mr. Vickers on, right? And again, going back to what I just said a few seconds ago, um, I had Mr. Vickers on because, like I said, he and I share similar interests, and he just seems to be an overall fascinating guy. Um, that is the main reason why I had him on. Um, at the same time, um, you know, did I have him on strictly because of the whole, internet blood sports thing? No. But given the fact that he and I are both individuals that were kind of, I guess, sucked into that world, without really choosing to be there ourselves. Um, I saw an opportunity before me. I saw an interesting guy who I felt that I could kind of relate to. And granted, you know, my experience with the whole Owen Benjamin saga is nowhere near as bad as what happened to, Mr. Vickers with Ethan Ralph. Like, they're not even in the same universe. So, don't misunderstand what I mean. But, we both got pulled into, you know, E drama against our will. Right? So I saw the opportunity to get him on the show, and I saw that he and I were kind of, I guess, kind of in the same, side of the spear and kind of on the same road. So, you know, it just seemed obvious, right? Like things seemed to match up. So, why wouldn't I have him on my show? That seems to be the bigger question. And if he gains more notoriety from being on my show, good. If I gain more notoriety from, having him on as a guest and he blows up, and if that helps me, even better. And if we both succeed, that's the best, right? So, like I said, interviewing him to gain notoriety wasn't exactly the goal, but if that's what happens, then, you know, that's what happens. Anyone who knows me, and who has followed the lore of the show knows that I interviewed Ben Shapiro back before he really became Ben Shapiro proper, right? And I've said that the reason why I interviewed him was because I really wanted to know a lot about Andrew Breitbart, who was Ben Shapiro's mentor. He had already gained like some traction in the political arena at that point, but he wasn't you know, the juggernaut he is now, right? So I didn't interview Ben thinking, oh man, I've got Ben Shapiro on. This is going to blow up my, show. At the time, no, that's not what I was thinking at all. I was thinking more of, you know, wow, I get a chance to interview someone who knew Andrew Bright, who I deeply admire. Um, and then Ben blew up, and as a result, of him kind of blowing up and becoming a huge success, some people found the podcast I did with him from back in 2012. Hard to believe that will be 10 years that I did that come October. But man, time flies, I guess. But I guess my point with the Vickers is, that could very well be a similar situation, right? I interviewed Mr. Vickers just out of curiosity, and he is starting a show of his own now, which is another reason why I wanted to have him on because, um, I've been at the podcasting game for a while, and listen, I know I'm not like the biggest podcast or the biggest YouTuber out there, but even so, if I can, help someone I like start their own podcast, um, I'm going to do it. And I like Mr. Vickers, and he's been good to me thus far. He seems really genuine, um, which I'll get into in a sec. And so, I just wanted to help him out and help promote his show, and I was glad to be able to do that. Right? So, I've had a lot of podcasters and different people who I've admired who have helped me over the years, and I'm grateful to them for that. Um, except for one guy who now thinks that he apparently owns my brand just because I had him on once, and you know, he never he thinks that just because he came on my show once and then gossiped and bitched about all the people I was associated with. Apparently, uh, he thinks that I now owe him like for eternity or something. But I'm sorry, Mr. Broken Down BMW man. That's not how stuff works. But other than that guy, um, other than Mr. Mooch, uh, everyone who has helped me out, with the show, I'm extremely grateful for. Right? And so, anytime I get a chance to help a smaller YouTuber or content creator, even though I am one myself, I'm going to take the opportunity. Right? Because promoting each other and helping us grow each other's platforms, that's one of the best ways we can help each other as content creators. And I really do believe that. I know it sounds sappy to people, but really this is the podcasting game now. We don't really have to fight each other. And in fact, I think a lot of this, e-drama shite would be you know, the time would be spent a lot better, promoting each other and just giving each other positive feedback. But hey, that's not how that thing works. So, who am I? But I wanted to help Mr. Vickers out, and hopefully I did. Hopefully, people tune into the good, the bad, and the vicious. So helping him out has been great, and that's why that's another reason why we did the podcast. It's not simply just because of clout chasing. um and then, like I said, the next thing that people said, and this is perhaps my favorite criticism of the Vickers interview. Uh, I've had multiple people, and I'm assuming they're Ethan Ralph trolls, maybe some merch trolls, uh, you know, maybe just other random trolls on the internet. I don't know. Uh, I've commented or DM me or tweeted stuff at me saying, stop promoting garbage people like, Mr. and Mrs. Vickers, who just, grift off their daughter's situation. They're scumbag people. Or my other favorite, they're worse than Ralph, so why are you promoting them? Um, Mr. Vickers did what he had to do to help get his daughter back. Um, and I know that whole horse has been, beat to death. But since you guys want to open this can of worms, you know what? Let's keep score here. By my count, Mr. Vickers is he's a good, hardworking, honest family man who's an entrepreneur and a nerd, and pretty soon here he's going to be a podcaster and a YouTuber within a matter of hours. Um, Granted, he's not perfect. He'll be the first to admit that. But he's a guy who seems to want to make content because he's genuinely interested in doing so. And I can tell that from our conversation. He's interested in helping others out too. He's helped promote me a few times, even though he hasn't even had a show. Yeah, he's helped me out. He even contributed, to the show the other night afterwards. So thank you, Mr. Vickers, for that as well. But yeah, man, he just seems like just a genuinely great guy, and it's funny. Even though we're online, and even though this whole universe, this whole kind of space that we're in of consecration, the one thing that I'm good at, the one thing that I've always been good at, regardless of whether it's IL or on the internet, is, for the most part, if someone is being genuine with who they are, and I can tell that, right? If they're being genuine, I can often pick up on that. It's just a gut instinct thing that I've, always had, and I can pick up on that. Mr. Vickers definitely seems like one of those types of men, and same with his wife being that type of woman. They just have really good, hearts, and they're good people from all my accounts, and so I would rather promote those people rather than the attention seeking e-drama people, right? Um, Not to say that those guys aren't entertaining, because some of them are, but they're I guess they're not they're not, Mr. and Mrs. Vickers aren't exciting enough for that space, some of them. So they come here instead. And I'm happy to have them. Right? But apparently to some people that, they're garbage people because they took advantage of a situation that they got forced into, and now they're making lemonade out of it. Right? They're making a mountain out of a molehill. and they're building a house and making clay out of a pile of shit. Basically, they're taking a bad situation and making a positive thing out of it from my account. And so, yeah, you want to say that I'm promoting garbage people, all you random, no name. I only got 12 followers on Twitter. Yeah, you keep telling me that they're bad people. I still haven't found any no one has been able to tell me exactly what Mr. Vickers did that makes him worse than Ethan Ralph. Okay? And I can say that because I'm not part of the I'm not part of the legal dealings. What Ethan Ralph did to his family um is just it's bad and just downright disgusting. Um so yeah, is Mr. Vickers perfect? No. But to say I'm promoting a garbage person by having him on my show, um, you know, that that doesn't fly necessarily. Now I will say that there have been a time or two where I've had people come on my show and then later it it was revealed that they were garbage people, right? And I'm not going to name names because I don't want to give those people the satisfaction. But let me tell you this, the garbage people that I've had on my show before, they never gave me like good guy vibes like Mr. Vickers did. Right? I never really felt like a connection with those individuals the way I did with Mr. Vickers. Right? They weren't really personable. I had the conversation with them because I thought they were interested and they were timely for various things going on at the time, but it wasn't quite the same. Right? So, yes, I have had garbage people on the show before, and I've made my fair share of mistakes as a podcaster too. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I don't think having the Vickers on is, one of them, right? So those are the three, big, I guess, criticisms of the Vickers interview. There are other small ones like, oh well, you're this is another one that I always love. And, at this point, it's not even specific to this episode. It's just the trolls always love coming at me with stuff like, uh, oh, Sam, you're in a wheelchair and you have cerebral palsy, right? Like, that's one of their favorite, like, go-to insults is like, nah, 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 you're disabled, or something like that. And it's like, well, no fucking shit, I am. Like I've talked about that. Um, it doesn't phase me. I don't cry like a baby about it. Because you guys bring it up. I'm not 6. I'm 27, and if you guys think making fun of my disability is going to make me crumble and run away, then you've got something else you know you've got something else coming. um but that's always like one of their standard insults is, oh, you have cerebral palsy. Really? I didn't know that, champ. Thanks for letting me know. I've only been living with it myself for 27 years. Wow. And then another one. Well, you have no viewers. Right? You're nobody. Uh why would Vickers come on your show? And granted, right, the podcast is small. I might not have a shit ton of people subscribe to my channel. I'm sitting at around you know, probably around I think last time I checked it was 787 subscribers on YouTube. Um but so granted that's not a lot, but I'm still growing. And yeah, it might be slow, but I'm doing it organically. I'm not paying for bots like a lot of these uh quote unquote bigger YouTubers that criticize me do. Um and then the other people who criticize me with oh well you have no numbers. It's like, yeah, but you don't even have a channel either, right? The people who are always like, you're nobody. Most of those people don't even have uh videos on YouTube. They don't even have like subscribers. So like, yeah, I only have a couple hundred subs, but you know, are you creating content? Um and also if you're taking the time to comment that on my videos, uh or on my blog, or wherever you guys like to go, guess what? That's another view for me. That's another interaction for me. That you're giving me an interaction. You're helping me. So that's a win for me. And this is something that not just with the Vickers interview, and we did discuss this a bit on Saturday, but I do want to kind of shift topics here a little bit, and I don't want to dive too deep into this subject yet because it will probably be the main subject of Saturday's show, with it being the anniversary show and everything. But honestly, folks, I always hear people, especially these days, you always hear about clout chasing and grifting, and so is a grifter, and so is only doing it for the money. Um, and that's kind of across the board on YouTube, on the internet, just in general, basically, right? I've gotten that a lot, in the past few years. Oh, Sam, you're just a grifter. Meh, 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 meh. Or you're just cloud chasing off of this or that or the other thing. And you know, to that I say, well, that's your observation. And a lot of people who cry, "Oh, you're a clout chaser," that's what they choose to see. I'm not going to be able to change their opinion because, um, they're just stuck in their way. But here's what I will tell people. I've 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 been podcasting for uh, about 15 years now. Um, I started when I was, uh, you know, 14 years old. Uh, I actually might have been 13 years old at the time, and I've gone over this story before. I was a political nerd in high school, uh, or I guess back then junior high school, and I started a podcast because I wanted it to be the next Rush Limbaugh, right? Uh, because that's just how nerdy I was as a kid. And, I had dreams of being on the radio, uh, one day as a kid. And so that's initially how it started. And then, you know, I, I did the political thing for a while and, had some relative success with it, kind of came up through the ranks of the Tea Party movement, and the other young conservatives who were also, I mean, I'm not going to mince words here. We were all, in a way, trying to, imitate Rush or imitate Mark Levin, or imitate one of those people. And, we were all teenagers and you know, we're in our 20s and some of us in our 30s, like, we all look back on it, those of us who have stayed in touch, and we laugh about it, right? Uh, you know, that's what happened. But for me personally, like, there was the political thing, certainly when I was younger. But as I've gotten older and, I've continued to do this, I mean, I love the medium of podcasting. Uh, and I love being able to just talk to people, uh, including talking to you, the audience. Even though I'm just looking into my camera, I'm still talking to you, the audience, whether you're watching or listening to me in your earbuds or your headset or whatever. Um, I love being able to communicate with you guys and uh, share my thoughts and opinions about things on various topics. And, some of it's political, but within the last 5 years or so, I've started to really move more into, pop culture things. Some of the other interests I've had, throughout my life. Nerd stuff. Um, sports on occasion. Just life stories. I enjoy talking to people. Um, having guests on, some famous, some not famous, but who I find is interesting at all. Some, guests who I think I'll find interesting and then aren't. Um, I've really, until you do this podcasting thing for a while, right? Like, if you're really committed to doing a show for the sake of doing a show and because you love it, like, that's where I'm at. I love doing the show because I love doing the show, right? I mean, I put this show out for free, the vast majority of it. There are people who contribute, you know, to the to the show financially, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But I put this podcast out for free for the most part. Uh, I will put out some bonus episodes, behind a paywall and whatnot, and I might start doing that more and more with like bonus content. But the overall show has always been free. Um, I don't make a ton of money on it. Believe me, I'd love to, but money is not the reason why I do this show. And the other thing too is I don't do it for fame either. Like, certainly it would be nice to be well known, and in certain corners of the internet and whatnot, in certain fields, I guess I'm well known. I guess some people actually have called me famous, which is weird because I don't consider myself famous really at all. um but really, this whole idea of fame, right, and just being famous for the sake of being famous, it really is overrated. And I know, oh, Sam, you're just saying that because you're a nobody. Well, believe it or not, Dennis Miller, uh of all people, many consider him to be one of the greats of Saturday Night Live, and many others consider him to be the greatest to do Weekend Update, right? Um, I called, into his show, um, when he was doing the radio a few times, and I left voicemails for him when he did his podcast there for a while. And I wish I still had a clip of this, but on the last episode of his podcast, I thanked him for, influencing me, and for influencing the show. And I invited him on to do the show in that final voicemail, which he still hasn't taken me up on yet, but maybe one day. I'm hoping so. But the one thing he said is, you know, keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, babe. Keep doing what you're doing, kiddo. Fame is a little, fame is overrated, Cha-Cha. Uh, just keep doing the podcast, because you love it. And, the success will come later, kiddo. That's what he told me, and kind of re- responding to my voicemail. And obviously I could dismiss that and say, oh, Dennis is just saying that because he's famous, and he got onto SNL and whatnot, right? I could have taken that attitude, or I could say, geez, Dennis has been in show business for 40 years. He's seen it all. He's been in the ins and on the outs. Um, I'm going to take his sage wisdom, and that's exactly what I've done. Um, so I continue putting this show out because I enjoy it, and you know, I am working on growing the show. I am working on building the show. Don't get me wrong. I would like to, monetize it more, and eventually I'd love to be able to do this thing full time. That would be awesome. Uh, if I could do that. That is a goal, but that is not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to, put out a good show for you guys. And, put out a good show for you guys as often as possible. And, do that while also being genuine to who I am as a person, right? There are a lot of people who gain fame by pretending to be someone else. And, like I said, I tried doing that when I was younger, emulating Rush Limbaugh. And, like about 7 years ago now, when I came to Florida or so, I had a friend who kind of took me aside and was like, yo, Sam, you're not Rush Limbaugh, you're Sam Whitfield. So be Sam Whitfield. And that kind of set me on the path to kind of, I retired the Whitfield analysis and kind of rebranded the show as the Whitfield Report. And, granted, the show hasn't like exploded overnight, but I think I've had a nice, steady growth pace. And, I'm just continuing to grow the show and build up. And, I've got my sights set on the future, which is what we're going to talk about more on, Saturday's show. So I advise you to tune in for that. And just to celebrate with me on 15 years of podcasting. So with that in mind, folks, I want to thank you all for tuning in to this episode. And I also wanted to encourage you to check out Mr. Vickers' podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Vicious, on YouTube. I will have the link down in the description for that as well. Also, I have a few announcements. We are now on Rumble. I've got my video library over on Rumble, and that should be, the catalog is being imported from YouTube, and we already have a few videos up there, but that is rumble.com/report. If you would like to, join me on that alternate channel, Odyssey as well. I'll have that link set in the show notes as well. But anyway, folks, from all of us at NGC Studios, have a good day or evening wherever you are in the past, present, future hour. God bless, and God save this great nation. I'll see you guys on the Saturday show, folks. God bless.
Thanks for listening to The Whitfield Report on the NGC Network. Please visit Sam's website at www.thesamwhitfield.com and support Sam on Patreon at patreon.com/Whitfield Report. Until next time, God bless, God save this great nation, and God, freedom, legacy, in that order.